companies here, but we're just a little bit over a year old. And Kooda is the tech-enabled food scrap collection company. So we're looking at, I guess, organic waste and diverting it from landfill, but there's a whole bunch of other applications for, I guess, the tech that we're developing that will be on a broader range of waste than just organics. But at the moment we are definitely talking about organic food waste. And these guys have asked me to talk about green cities and what I want to define by that. It can be looked at a few different ways. So is a green city a city that has tech and a whole bunch of sustainability issues that have all been addressed really well? But there's also green in the sense of people connecting with green spaces and having plants and all of those kinds of things in there. So we went with this term that's going around at the moment called biophilia, and that's a person feeling friendly towards their environment and the green spaces in it and all of those kinds of things. So yeah, connecting with nature in the city, which is something that's not, is just being developed more and more in quite urban areas. And something like 60% of the population will live in cities by 2050. So it's becoming more and more important for people who are in urban areas to get some form of connection with nature and that kind of thing. And at Kooda, I guess we're about nutrient recycling, so we're in the waste management industry. We're taking organic food waste that is something that everyone's thrown away and actually bringing that back around in the city, processing it in the city without smell and without vermin so that it can be used to grow things in the city. So that's what we're about. And you might be a bit frustrated by the lack of information about what we do here, and it's because I'm still very new and a lot of our things have not been secured in IP yet, and we've still got a lot of NDAs that we're working on. So this is a very general talk, and I want to kind of put forward to you, I guess, where I think cities are going and how that kind of green sustainability thing is going to play out. So, am I pointing that way? Yeah. So in terms of green cities, is the city itself green or are the people in the city green? And how do we make a city green without turning all the people in the city into the stereotypical greenie who hugs trees? Because to make a green city, it's not really about the cement pylons or any of those kinds of things. It's about changing people's behaviour. It's about people doing things in a green way and being enabled to do that in a green way. So Kooda is all about helping people to do the right thing with their waste and to engage with their organics and those kind of things without actually turning their lifestyle upside down, which is what most people don't want. We need 100% of the population to get on board with this without actually being long-haired and hugging trees. And so I think the challenge for tech is to bridge that gap and to become easy and convenient for people. So the winning trifecta, I think, for people to engage in anything that's going to be sustainable or green is they're going to have time, space, or inclination. And they have to have all three of those for it to work. So if you want to think about organics recycling, if you were going to get a worm farm, you'd have to have space for it, you'd have to have time to manage it, and you'd also have the inclination, or you'd have to want to do it. So the proportion of people in the community who are actually able to do things like worm farming is actually very small. So we needed a better solution for our cities that could address all of those kinds of things. So a little bit about me, and this is how I got into it. So I'm a chemical process engineer, worked in manufacturing of sterile medical devices and a whole bunch of things, so I've been working full-time for quite a while. But I wanted to help try and address climate change, and so someone made me aware of food waste and how bad it was. And I started to try and recycle my family's scraps. This is about 4 years ago. So I was working full-time. I had international travel to Malaysia on a regular basis. I've got 3 children. They're currently 9, 7, 6. Husband, I had a crazy nanny who was living with us. And just to throw the household into more chaos, we had an artist who lived in our backyard. So I had 7 people in my household, and we were producing between 30 and 40 kilograms of scraps a week. There's no way I could possibly do that in a worm farm or a compost heap in the space in Sydney that I had. It was just not possible. And so all of the solutions that were available to me at the time were worm farming, composting heap, could not cope with that. That's just from my 7-person household. And so I started looking, as engineers do, for bigger solutions and better solutions, and I realised that there's actually no solutions even for councils and for those kinds of things. The volumes of food waste that we create are absolutely insane. So the city of Vincent is just down the road, 26,000 households, If every house is 10 kilos a week, that's 260 tonnes a week of food waste. So when we're talking about nutrient recycling and the volumes of things that are going on here, it's absolutely insanely massive. But imagine the great good that we could do if we could take all of those nutrients and put them back into something good. So back to the consumer again, which is I think what we have to keep coming back to. How do we get people to do these things without turning their lifestyle upside down? And I want to point out the difference between something that took off, Uber, and something that didn't take, like that replaced something like taxis. What's the difference between those two things? Why did Uber work so well?
Easy.
It's easy?
Cheaper.
It's cheaper?
They were better than taxis.
They
were better than taxis.
They were better than taxis, so it's just easier, cheaper, better. And people love Uber, don't they? They emotionally connect with it. So I think as we go forward with future cities, we're creating things that are not just service-oriented things that are just going to sit on the side of the road. So if you take that to the waste industry, our garbage trucks go past every week. We don't think about them. They sit in the background. We might think about them if we hear the beep and we're asleep and we forgot to put the bin out, but nobody likes that feeling, right? So the waste industry needs to change because my generation, the generation below me, expect service, they expect ease, they expect things to be nice, and they want to emotionally connect with their brands that they're doing. So going forward, I think we need to be looking at the consumer and we're looking at how we actually reach those people. So, like we just said, easy, tailored services for urban residents. So we need things that are efficient. We don't want things where people sit around having a barbecue going, oh, that doesn't make sense, that's a stupid way of doing it. We want to achieve a goal that's attended with little fuss, and people have a sense of loyalty to what they're engaged in. So Kooda is looking at trying to solve these problems for the waste industry and for sustainability and those kinds of things. So why go down the street if there's no bins there, or if there's very few bins there? What's the goal of the waste? Are we just trying to get rid of it and get it out of the city, or are we going to try and recycle it? And I think most people would agree we should try and recycle it now. And now that also, the joy and loyalty for Uber is, I think, because it's so reliable, you know you're going to get one in 3 minutes. But the waste industry is struggling, and the recycling industry in particular is struggling with this sense of trust. We don't know if things are actually getting recycled. We don't know where they're going. The war on waste has really, I guess, shown that ecosystem to be a bit broken at the moment. So I think in the future there's going to need to be solutions to that sense of trust. So does it make sense? Garbage trucks probably don't actually make sense trucking it out of the city because it's a long way and it's going to make carbon in the meantime. And it's inefficient because it goes past everyone's house even if no one's put out waste. Same old just seems to keep happening. So I've noticed that there's biodegradable bags are coming up in a lot of places where they are trying to recycle food scraps. But if you talk to people, people don't like bags. Have you ever tried to go from your garbage bin in your kitchen, you've picked out the bag, and then you've got to run it all the way outside to your garbage bin and it's dripped the whole way? And yet when we've progressed to organic recycling, nobody's solved the plastic bag thing. In fact, they've gone out of their way to make biodegradable plastic bags when the actual consumer doesn't want plastic bags. So as you're designing products and as you're thinking about solutions for whatever products you are looking at doing, go talk to people and work out what their problems are, because then you'll solve something that people will then engage with. So at Kooda we give everyone buckets and we wash the buckets for them. So no one has to wash a bucket, no one has a drippy plastic bag, and people love our product. We get emails of people saying, I love your buckets. What is this plastic bucket with the logo on it? And, but we've solved those problems for them. So that's something that, yeah, as you're developing products, really think through that kind of thing. We have an app, so we do on-demand collection, and that's working quite well, but I think apps are probably going out in the next 10 years. And I think we're moving into future cities where it's actually smart items, smart bins, Internet of Things, connected everything. So that is where this is going. The waste collection industry, the recycling industry, all of those kinds of things are all going to become items that are connected to the internet. And we're going to need to be able to look at big data, look at how that interaction occurs with people and all of those kinds of things. So speaking of that, so Kooda is looking to be the composting facility for all of Australia. And we're working with companies to design products that have an end life that is designed to be compostable. And we want to be able to give consumers the 100% confidence that it is going to be composted. And that means actually having data flow from manufacturing, how many of these did we make, how many got composted, and actually keeping track with big data through that whole process so that we can guarantee that end life of what you buy is going to be composted or it's going to go to the right place. And there's a whole bunch of technologies involved there, right? But the design of that is really to give consumers confidence that when they pay a little bit more for something, it is going to the right place. So that's really exciting, and I think there's a whole bunch of emerging technologies around that. RFID chips on things and sensors, Internet of Things, a whole bunch of really cool stuff happening with that. So just to keep going on nutrient recycling. Anyone have a guess what this one is? Bit of chemistry. Sorry? It does have an oxygen in it. No chemists here. Alright. This is vitamin C. It's a nutrient that we have in all of our food. That's vitamin C. So we talk about nutrient recycling, and I don't think many people think about kind of what it actually is. It's kind of like a fuzzy thought of the nutrients that are in our food and they're in it everywhere, and that's vitamin C. Each point where you see a line that joins up, there's a carbon in there that chemists just don't even bother putting in there, because carbon is the source of all nutrients, all protein and all life. So when we talk about nutrient recycling, this is very much tied in with carbon dioxide recycling and the carbon cycle. So sustainability and the greenhouse gases and all of those kind of things are very much tied up in here. This is vitamin C. There's two different ways that we could kind of recycle it. One would be to compost it or to do something in an aerobic condition with oxygen. And then there's 6 carbons in that molecule, and that would make 6 carbon dioxide molecules. If we did it without oxygen, we would get 6 methane molecules. So at a really basic level, the way that we recycle the nutrients and all of the proteins and all of the things that are in our food waste and everything like that just comes down to these really basic kind of chemistries that they're very intertwined with each other, but not very well thought about at a really basic level. But it's actually quite easy to understand. So this is the carbon cycle. It looks a bit more complicated, I guess. But essentially, when you burn anything, you're adding oxygen to the carbon and making carbon dioxide. And plants photosynthesize and they take carbon dioxide out of the air and build it into long chains of molecules. And with food scraps and food waste and things like that, we can just burn it all and it would end up in the air, or we can actually keep those long carbon chains and reuse them again. And it's the same with plastics too. Plastics have been made from oil, which came originally from photosynthesis. And there's a couple of options with those plastics. We can keep reusing them, we could store them underground, or we can burn them into carbon dioxide again. And what really is happening with greenhouse gas mitigation is at some point we have to stop burning things and stop turning it into carbon dioxide and leave it in the ground or leave it in a useful place. So whether we build houses with them or whether we make soil and grow things, real sustainable cities have got to really address that whole, just let's stop burning stuff, right? That's what the carbon cycle is really saying. So with Kooda, we're looking at organic waste. We want to get the carbon and all of those nutrients into the ground. And so you see that as you start adding organic waste to ground, you get more and more total carbon in the ground. It's pretty obvious. And that's why the government, and this is apolitical at the moment, really. So the Liberal Party has the Carbon Emission Reduction Fund. You can source separate organic wastes and they'll pay you for it because it's going to reduce greenhouse gases. So this is a business that's accepted, I guess, across the board as being something that is good for society and good for businesses. But we need to really get that message across, I think, because a lot of people still see this kind of fringe thing to do. So growing in cities, this is the shortest part of my talk because we're still getting there. But I think growing green things in cities is something that is really being thought through at the moment. So finding ways to easily recycle those nutrients into liquid forms and into amendments that can be used in the city is coming. There's a lot of planning going on for it at the moment. So that was in China. Anyone guess which company these two things are from? IKEA. So IKEA has got a massive sustainability push at the moment, and they're looking to get hydroponics into every household so that you grow your food at home. And like I said, with cities, that's going to be absolutely necessary because everyone will be in the city. We don't want to be trucking it if there's not enough land. But recycling those 260 tonnes of food waste into a usable form, hydroponics, is something that's a really exciting thing to do. And these are the emerging technologies that are coming. So yeah, that's IKEA. There's some things in the cities that I think most people don't think about, but food waste is actually quite dangerous. People die from it. So managing the way that it's done so that people don't breathe in the spores and Legionnaire's disease and all those kinds of things is part of what we're working on at Kooda. So how do we manage 260 tonnes of waste a week in the city in a healthy way? So pasteurising that, all of those kinds of things. And there's a lot of tech involved in that to do it in the city in a safe and manageable way. So I guess Kooda is about worms, and I think my time is almost up. But Kooda, we're using worms, and it's actually really interesting how the worms are actually a bacterial kind of agent. They have bacteria in their guts that get rid of bad things and get good ones in, and all those kind of things. And something that I'm passionate about is actually bringing some healthy biomes and healthy living bacteria into cities. Because as you get exposed to those things, it actually makes you healthier. It helps your immune system. It helps all of those kinds of things. So helps plants. So that's a bit about Kooda, and I hope it's kind of whet your appetite, I guess, for where cities and sustainability things might go.